This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 so you don't have to.
My name is Abigail Ward.
I'm Michelle St. Clair.
And tonight we're watching S. Darko. Donnie Darko's little sister Samantha and her best friend Corey are on a cross-country road trip, but soon find themselves entangled in a dangerous glitch in the time-space continuum. Let's watch.
Hey, Abby.
Yeah, Michelle.
We got another email.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh,
now,
us?
you already know that we got this email, but I didn't read you out the entire email. We got another email from Olivia Bernard.
Oh.
Hey, RD Squad. It's me again, and I've made more art. I had just watched Batman and Robin when I heard it was the next movie on the list, and since you liked the first drawing so much, I felt inspired, and love it we did.
We did.
Here's a little something to get you through the next eps. Hope your faces look accurate enough and not totally uncanny valley, and we will post the art along with the episode, and it is so good.
Yes, we love it. Thank you so much. And I love that I know I'm meant to be like Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
But I'm also a green girly anyway, so
Yeah.
I feel like I would wear that outfit.
I think it was said, I wanted to capture a very particular dynamic that pops up from time to time on the pod. I'll leave it up to you to decide if I got it right. And given that you, Abby, are threatening to kill me, yeah, that's it. That's us.
Oh my God. I just want to, I need to see it again. Hang on.
Yeah,
Let me pull it up because I've got it here.
Just for the listeners, it is me as, Victor Freeze's wife, stuck frozen in the water chamber with Abby as Poison Abby, as it denotes, outside, sort of like with her foot dangling to threatening to pull the power plug on it.
I'm thrilled that I have anything to do with Uma Thurman in any world, really. And I love just the attention to detail. Like I've got the, drag side kind of wig, spiral buns.
I mean, you're a hot blonde.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My tits look also like really proportionate as well. Like in this photo, that's the size of my tits, I reckon.
Yeah.
Do you reckon?
I think so.
I think she's nailed my tits.
She's nailed your tits.
And also, I think she's like kind of just nailed my body in general. Like, just amazing.
It's really great, and we really, really love it. Like I said, we'll post it. We'll post it like we did last time, and tag Olivia's website in it. But she also added in a little PS. One was a PS. Sorry, Shane, I didn't have an image of you to use as a reference, which I think is fair. But a little PPS. You didn't ask for any takes on the new Atla, meaning Avatar The Last Airbender, from a few eps ago, but as long as I'm here, I shall boldly offer one. Now, I asked Olivia if we wanted to share this. The problem I had with Sokka from the original show was that there was never any justification for why he was sexist, and he doesn't really become a full character until they get to Kyoshi. This is in reference to us talking about how they were talking about taking out the
character sexism.
Yeah. Nobody else in his tribe seemed to be, including his dad and the other warriors. So where would he have gotten it from? His granny? Or he just randomly invented modern sexism? The Northern Water Tribe was sexist, but not the Southern, seemingly. He also doesn't become a real character until we get to Kyoshi Island. So I'm not mad that we don't yet have another story where a boy learns that girls are people.
That's true. That's actually a very good take.
I think so. I think it's interesting. I feel like the implication is that Sokka is sexist because he would have seen that the warriors are protecting the tribe. And I think he mostly is just like, if I remember, we sort of get a point where we unpack like, he feels that he must be the protection from the tribe. And that sort of morphs into his sexism.
I don't remember enough about Avatar. Like we had our watch through of it in like 2019 with Tony, friend of the podcast. But I don't really remember the dynamics within the water tribe, but I do remember that like it is true that if there is no one else, displaying overt sexism, you do have to wonder where he learned it from, because the only reason we struggle with it now is that it is taught and repeated.
Totally. I do think it works in the sense that real life boys often learn sexism passively. And I feel like you get the implication that Sokka has learned it passively from just, again, having this role thrust upon him.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, like, maybe in universe it's a little tenuous, but it's meant to be thematic. So I do think it works for me, but I actually think this is not a bad take at all. Like, I think it's a pretty fair point of view.
100%. And it is true. A lot of sexism is completely passively picked up, you know?
Yeah.
It isn't, there's plenty of men that think that they're woke, that think that they
Totally.
aren't sexist, that they don't have something ingrained within them that will be just prejudice towards the women's capabilities. But unfortunately, they do.
Yeah.
They definitely do. People that I've met, men that I'm like, you have the best intentions, and I know that you think you've like intellectualized sexism and that you're past it. There's still things that you sort of unconsciously expect of women.
Totally.
That you have not addressed.
Yeah. I mean, often that can be felt in so much of like those little things of men not realizing that they're kind of expecting that the important women in their life to kind of solve things for them,
listen to them,
clean things for them. And often like totally impassively being like, I clean too, because you take out the rubbish once a week, and like you're not doing the dishes, you're not doing the actual scrubbing. Like
it's I remember like years ago when I read this thing of like the problem with the dynamic now is that now women are realizing now women are allowed to pursue careers. They're allowed to have a 9-to-5 and they're encouraged to have a 9-to-5 and to bring in as much income as their partner. But their partner, the men, still haven't realized that they then have to do 50% of the housework.
Yeah.
And that hasn't, the amount of dynamics I've seen where there's a couple that are bringing in the same income, maybe the woman's bringing in even more income, but the woman is still doing most of the housework. Housework is like a full-time job.
Yeah.
If you're taking care of a house, if you're cleaning the house, that's a lot of time in your day to get through your chores. If you're both out working, you both get home, you're both exhausted, and then the woman has to cook dinner and clean up.
Yeah.
Where's the equality in that?
Exactly. And like it manifests in so many ways. When I was teaching more often, like I came out while I was teaching, and before I came out, I had 100% positive feedback scores.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
And afterwards, that went down to 80, which my boss, the head of film, like nicely was like wondering why this had come up, wanted to talk to me about it. And two of the other female teachers was like, that's been the ceiling for my scores this whole time.
Yeah.
I had more of the male students, almost all of whom saw themselves as progressive. Like there were some students who were conservative, but they actually weren't the problem for this of like, I had a lot more students doubting that what I said was authoritatively true.
Yes.
A lot more of them were questioning if I was right. The questions took the tone from, oh, how does this work, to why isn't it this way? And it was wild to see. I'm like, guys, you have to, like, I am here because I'm the authoritative voice on this subject. Gee, I wonder why you no longer believe me.
Exactly. You no longer trust my decisions, my input. Now you're suddenly questioning everything I'm saying.
Yeah, and they would do it on set too, where they didn't realize they weren't at all listening to their female collaborators and really always listening to their male ones. And again, meaning well, but just not realizing their own habits and what they were doing.
Again, it is like, I think in these cases, sometimes it is the people that think they are progressive that might be more dangerous.
Yeah,
because
totally.
they don't actually recognize their shortcomings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And if you ever try and pull them up in it, they become completely defensive because it's not something they've ever had to address before. They're like, no, I watch TikToks, so I'm pretty across feminism at the moment.
I've seen a TikTok.
I've seen a TikTok or two. I will say, in the idea of like subconsciously picking up, I guess expectations of either gender, because I'm married and I'm married to a man, and I myself am a woman, and I am a white woman, I get a lot of trad wife content slung my way.
Sure.
And there's a lot of content of women being like, I was miserable with my husband because he wouldn't listen to me. He was rude. He wouldn't actually take on like every time I tried to talk to him, he'd say I was like nagging or complaining. But then I fell into my feminine role.
Oh, Christ.
And he fell into his more masculine role. And now everything's better.
Oh,
now I have learned to take direction.
Oh my God.
Now I have learned to listen. And I've learned to serve my man.
Oh.
I'm getting content like that. It makes my skin crawl. I'm like, why?
Awful.
Well, it just so happens that these women also bake really nice bread and knit really nice things. And I like those two things. So it almost confuses the algorithm where they're like, well, she likes to knit and look at people making bread. So therefore, she must want this ultra conservative trad wife
Oh
nonsense.
my God. That's not actually what being like a homemaker or
I
a
know.
wife is. Like, oh my God.
Occasionally I see a homemaker on TikTok that's like, finally, you found a homemaker that isn't trying to like shove religious or sexist rhetoric down your throat. And I'm like, yeah, it is rare at this point.
It's hard to find.
It is. I hate that I'm in that. Like, that's the worst bit about getting married to Claude.
That's pretty, I mean, if that's the worst bit, that's pretty good marriage.
Yeah, it's a pretty good marriage.
Pretty good marriage.
Fucked up my algorithm, but pretty good marriage.
Hey, all of the algorithms are fucked at this point. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Can't get better than that, buddy.
Speaking of pretty good,
Oh?
this week we watched something that is the antithesis of pretty good.
There we go. I thought you were going to come in with a semi-sizzling take.
Yeah,
for a second.
Just like minorly sizzling, really, is what I came in with.
No, not sizzling.
Not sizzling.
This is on this
Lukewarm.
list. It's bad. People think it's bad.
Yeah. This week we watched F's Darko, and it was one of the weirder ones.
Yeah, one of the weirder ones for sure.
I can't say it was boring.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't boring.
Well, I could say it was boring, but I could say it had
was
more.
boring, but I can't say it wasn't unique.
That's true.
And there weren't memorable bits.
I mean, it wasn't unique because it's a sequel to Donnie Darko.
Yeah, is it though? Is it?
It's like, well, okay, so I rewatched Donnie Darko.
Did you?
In the lead up to this. Well, because that's a movie that I fucking loved as a teenager. Absolutely loved it. And when I say teenager, I mean I first watched it when I was 15. It's one of those movies that I actually would partly attribute to helping propel me. Like, at that point, I already wanted to be a director, but it sort of was one of those expanding my idea of movies, how I would want to make movies, how you could approach movies. And right up to like late teens, I was like in film school. I was someone who was in film school talking about Donnie Darko. What a stereotype. Which is ironic because S. Darko was the one that would have come out when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And like rewatching it, yeah, the third act, it's not that it doesn't hold up. It's a weird movie. And I remember reading that the director said that he was worried if he over-explained the ending, it would collapse under its own pretension. And I do think he was right to make that call. I do think once you get to the end of it and you get to the looping aspect of it, rather than feeling like, oh man, what does that mean? There's a little bit of like, what just happened? Which can be good, but I do think is off-putting for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I do think a lot more of the movie prior to that works than people give it credit for. And the opening 20 minutes is genuinely one of the best opening 20 minutes to any indie movie I've seen.
Yeah?
It's got spectacular direction. The opening bit with fucking Echo and the Moneymen playing while he's riding the bike.
Which song?
The Killing Moon.
Under blue moon I saw you.
Exactly.
So simple I see you.
Which also, I guess, is like a little joke. Because bunny men.
True.
Frank the Rabbit.
True.
But there's the bit where, he goes to school and like literally, apparently the producer described it as an indulgent music video until he saw the result.
Oh, well, he didn't see the end of S. Darko, but we'll get to that.
Where he comes out of the bus and it's this shot that starts horizontal and then as he jumps out of it, it like rotates to vertical and then sort of follows him in. And it sets this tone of like the specific nostalgia, but also unease of being in high school at that age.
I think that's what people liked about Donnie Darko. Wasn't really just like the sci-fi creepy aspects of it, or the horror aspects of it, or the thriller aspects. It's literally just how it made people feel about being a teenager at the time.
Yeah.
Because it came out in 2001.
2001.
And it was very, kind of late 90s. I'm a fucking angry kid in high school, and because of just the idea of the world's ending, so fuck it, and it gives this character the lenience to be able to just do whatever the fuck he wants. It's almost like these kids would watch it and be like, fuck, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do what Donnie did in that scene.
Yeah.
When he's like saying like fuck you to that teacher.
But the dialogue is so sharp in it. I was someone who as a teenager, I loved the director's cut of it. I was like, you gotta watch it. It makes it all make sense. And like the director's cut features scenes that were cut for time for a good reason, as well as like excerpts from the book that's in it, The Philosophy of Time Travel.
Yeah.
That quote unquote explain it in the most confusing way possible. And like now as an adult, I'm like, that explains it in a way that is antithetical to film. The director's cut is definitively worse. Theatrical all the fucking way.
Yeah. It's like I love the director's cut of Lord of the Rings, but sometimes I watch the theatrical ones and I'm like, this is a better film.
It is. They zip,
tighter.
They move.
We don't need all of that, kind of dead air, but I love the atmosphere, but we don't need it.
They don't feel like they're 3 hours when you watch the theatricals, but they feel like they're 3.5 to 4 when you watch the extended.
Yeah. And as a kid, we always did extended. So when I went back to theatrical, I was like, fuck, this is good.
Yeah.
This is like what I did want. But I was never a massive Donnie Darko person. I think I came to it too late, maybe. Like I watched it when I was a teenager, but I think I was just it just didn't strike me at the right time in the right way.
Totally.
So it was just something that I never fully got into. I don't think I had the anger or angst to be able to get fully behind it.
As a kid who felt very disassociative, it's a very disassociative movie that's also very direction heavy.
Yeah.
I think if you rewatched it, you'd appreciate the script in the first half, but I think you would hate the second half.
I remember hating the second half. I remember as the film went on, I loved the setup, but I remember as it went on, I was like, fuck this weird bullshit. I don't care about this fucking rabbit man. I still remember, the end of it where what ends up killing him? What ends up falling on him?
A jet turbine.
When
specifically
it falls,
the jet turbine that from the plane that his mum and younger sister were in that alt timeline.
Yeah,
when they go into a portal.
I remember that shot of like Maggie Gyllenhaal, her character, the older sister, gets home and she's in the hallway like cowering.
I think about that shot all the time.
It always stuck with me. I think it was a really well directed scene, but I remember at that point I was like, "What's going on?"
That's what I mean. Like that's the specific point where I think under explaining it, you end up losing something.
Yeah,
instead of gaining something.
Yeah. And I mean, like it's a cult film for a good reason. I think it is a good film. I think that it resonates with teenagers in a really pertinent way. So it does a really good job no matter what. I'm just not much of a I guess I'm not much of like a thriller horror kind of person,
Fair.
So it doesn't grab me as much.
I think I had a phase where I liked them more, but even though I don't particularly gravitate towards them now.
Yeah. But then we come to this film.
Okay.
S. Darko.
You know what my take is?
Okay, tell me.
I think this movie's bad. I think it's made by someone who genuinely likes the original. I don't know if the decision to make it was made by anyone who likes the original, but the impression that I get is that because it references deep things from the original, which watching them one after the other, I could really tell. But I also think it was made by someone who doesn't understand any of the reasons whatsoever that people like the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think they like it. They just like it for all of the worst parts. So someone who likes the director's cut of it,
So the person who made it, that was me yawning. I realized no one would be able to tell.
It sounded like you're about to sing Where Is My Mind?
Well, the thing about this film is that it was made by a man who did really like Donnie Darko.
I fucking knew it.
He loved it. He thought it was great.
What's his name? Like Richard Stripe or something?
Chris Fisher. Richard Stripe.
It's a good director name.
It is. Meets Chris Fisher.
Yeah.
Chris Fisher created it. And I'll tell you now, I can't get into my yawning cycle. Sometimes when we're recording, suddenly I yawn and I can't stop yawning, and then Michelle will start yawning because she's watching me yawn, and then it's just
I'm
this terrible
looking right
cycle.
at you.
I'm sorry. I apologize. This film was created by Chris Fisher. He had nothing to do with the original Donnie Darko, obviously.
No, I can tell.
But more notably, the director of the initial Donnie Darko,
Richard Kelly,
did not sign off for this film.
No.
And he had nothing to do with it.
Also, God, the original, this cast is stacked.
The original cast is amazing.
And also, I think part of the thing with this film, Jake Gyllenhaal, I remember reading about it, is so influential in the development of certain aspects and script aspects of Donnie Darko. Yeah, once he was on board, like he apparently pulled over in his car so he could finish reading it. He loved the script. He was obsessed with it. He replaced Jason Schwartzman, who was originally cast.
I'm so glad he did. I just can't visualize it.
But he had the idea of like Maggie Gyllenhaal coming on, the way he talks to Frank, like so many, and he was one who was pushing hard for a non-explanative ending and having these drifty things, all the tone stuff.
Yeah.
Not having Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, is part of why this film is why it is, as much as Richard Kelly.
Yeah. Well, apparently, like as you say, it's a stack cast in the first one because it's got Jake Gyllenhaal, Jenna Malone, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Drew Barrymore, Mary McDonnell, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. God, I love Mary McDonald.
James Duvall, and also that woman, I think the woman who plays the teacher as well. She's in everything.
Wait, Drew Barrymore?
No, the teacher that he tells
yes,
off.
that teacher. Yeah. If you need a Christian fundamentalist woman in anything from the last 30 years,
always play
it's
it.
her. Yeah.
You know, she plays like the woman in Little Miss Sunshine that won't let them in because they're 3 minutes late past 3:00 and they're begging her.
Yeah.
You know? So she's always that like stick in the mud character.
Yeah. Mrs. Robinson was in it. I can't remember the actress's name.
Cuckoo-ca-choo, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you would know. Anne Bancroft.
Anne Bancroft, yeah. Yeah, as the therapist.
Wow. It's a huge cast.
It's a fucking great cast.
I obviously, you know, I'll get into some key details so we can really talk about
Yeah.
it. But, you know, if anyone hasn't seen Donnie Darko, it's set in October 1988, and the film follows Donnie Darko, an emotionally troubled teenager who inadvertently escapes a bizarre accident by sleepwalking. He has visions of Frank, a mysterious figure in a rabbit costume, who informs him that the world will end in just over 28 days. That's the premise. Great premise.
Great premise.
And then we've got S. Darko. So this was, as I said, directed by Chris Fisher. How much do you think it cost to make?
The S. Darko?
Yeah.
A movie where they sort of wander about in the desert for an hour and a half?
Yeah.
I think it should have cost $100,000.
It cost $4 million.
$4 million. Okay, yeah, sure.
How much do you think it made at the box office?
I think it made $1 million.
You were dead on. Well done.
Yes.
And this cast, so we have, I don't even know how to say her name. DeVay Chase plays Samantha.
Yes, Lilo.
Lilo.
And Samara Morgan.
And Samara Morgan. She's a notable voice actress. She also played the original little sister of Donnie Darko. She's reprising her role.
Really?
It's the same little girl.
I didn't realize that was Davy Chase in the original.
Yeah, because the original came out in 2008. This came out in 2009. 8 years had passed. She was 10 in Donnie Darko. She was 18 in this.
Wow, I totally didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's really
Same
cool,
little girl.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really sick. She's a great voice actress, but she's not a great screen actress.
Well, and she is a Reading Descending All-Star because of that.
Yeah. We also have Brianna Evigan as Corey Corn. Corey Corn? I didn't know her name was Corey Corn. Sorry.
Corn. I didn't know her name was Corn either.
Corn.
Corey Corn.
I noticed, I remembered her because she was the lead from Step Up 2.
Oh, sure.
The Streets. Dance the Streets? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great when I was a teenager.
Yeah,
I thought she was sick.
They're all good when you're a teenager.
We've got Ed Westwick as Randy Holt. Ed Westwick was notable for being in Gossip Girl.
Oh, yeah, Gossip Girl's in this.
Yeah.
He's the bad boy of Gossip Girl.
So bad in this. He's so shocking.
Pretty bad in Gossip Girl, too.
To be honest, I've never seen an episode of Gossip Girl, but I'm sure he is.
I told you I watched it because of my high school girlfriend, which especially the first season, which meant even though I fucking hate that show, I have a lot of opinions on the way it ends because it ends in the most idiotic way possible.
Is it all a dream?
No, it's not. It's not all a dream because the whole thing is we don't know who Gossip Girl is.
Yeah.
Gossip Girl is revealed to be Penn Badgley's character. Spoilers for Gossip Girl, but also don't watch it.
Who's Penn Badgley?
He's the guy in You. You know the Netflix show You. He's got like the curly hair. Yeah, but you might have seen.
And I don't think so. But I'm sure I'll probably recognize him.
In Gossip Girl, you know, there's the main cast, there's 3 guys, 3 girls. The 2 main guys are the guy from S. Darko, who's like the bad boy, and then, I don't know, Nate or something, who's the blandest fucking white boy in the world.
The guy that plays him is like Chase something.
Yeah.
Chase Chancer or something.
Yeah, something like that. And then there's Penn Badgley's character, who is like poor, not compared to us, but compared to them. Like, you know, which means he's like sort of the outsider. He's the sweet boy, though. He's like the guy you want Blake Lively's character to kind of end up with instead of Nate, because Nate sucks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I've just looked him up. I know, yeah.
Yeah, and then at the end, it's the reveal that he is Gossip Girl, which both is something that is idiotic. It's antithetical to he did it as revenge, but it also doesn't make sense with like half of the show.
I did not expect you to know so much about Gossip Girl. I know that your ex-girlfriend watched it, but I did not know you knew that much. To be fair, hey, she was like 16, right, when she made you watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of 16-year-old girls loved it.
I don't begrudge her for watching it.
Not for that. For other things.
There's a lot of reasons I begrudge her, but it's not for watching Gossip Girl.
But there was a whole period of my life where I kept signing off on things being like XOXO Gossip Gail.
Yeah, that's right. You did.
Gossip Gail was great. Then we've also got James Lafferty as Justin Sparrow, who is the weird homeless dude walking around.
Related in some way to Grandma Death in the original.
Who fucking thought of these names? I'm sorry, Corey Corn, Justin Sparrow.
Well, Sparrow is a last name from the original, at least.
Right. And then you've got Jackson Rathbone returning from Twilight.
Who was in, obviously, from Twilight New Moon and, of course, Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
He's now a triple all-star.
Yeah, and he plays Jeremy Frame. I wonder if they were like, he's called Frame because he wears glasses.
Oh, fuck off.
And then, God, Jackson Rathbone's so weird. You know how like we were joking about Confederate Gold because he plays a Confederate soldier from Twilight, which is bizarre. Turns out he's a descendant of Stonewall Jackson, who's a Confederate general in the Civil War.
They should not have made him play.
I think it was pretty apt, to be honest. Apt casting.
I know, but I think he should have maybe some humility. About that. If I was, I'm just saying, if I was related to a Confederate, I would not jump into a Confederate role. You know what I mean?
I guess I know it also depends on the Confederate, really does.
I don't know if it does that much.
Well, there's some Confederates that were genuinely anti-slavery. They just had to fight for their state.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that were wrapped up in it. But anyway, this is not, we're not getting into this.
Stonewall Jackson was the weirdest guy, by the way.
Yeah, he was.
He apparently he thought that he it sounds like he had OCD. Like he always thought that his body was like off kilter, and so he would always like hang an arm longer than the other one. They'd be like, "Why are you standing like that?" And he'd be like, "Because my left arm is too long." And they're like, "You look uncomfortable." He always thought that like the backs of chairs weren't straight enough, even if they were straight as a board. He was like, "This will ruin my spine." He was a really strange guy.
Weird guy.
Oh man. Then we've got Elizabeth Berkley as Trudy Kavanagh, who's that religious girl. We've got Matthew Davis as Pastor John Wayne.
Coming back from Urban Legends Final Cut.
Yeah, and it's fucking, it's...
Warren from Legally Blonde.
Is that his name, Warren? Or is it...
Something like Warren.
Something similar.
Warren?
The guy that leaves her at the beginning, the asshole ex.
Who then at the end gets like the subtitle that's basically like Warren sucks and he gave up on life. And now he's in a fucking hole.
We hope he fucking killed himself.
I hope he rots.
And then we've got John Hawkes as Phil, the motel owner. And he's from Deadwood.
He's Saul.
Saul, yeah. Like Timothy Oliphant's best friend in Deadwood.
It's so conflicting when I see an actor that I like and something like this because I'm like, oh, hey.
Oh, this must have been a tough year for you.
Yeah, that's rough, buddy.
So let's go into the overview. And this is possibly the worst overview I've ever written.
How do you explain this plot?
I just gave up. I think I was like a paragraph in where I was like, there's no way I can make this make sense. I'm not going to bother.
Not the last thing he wanted where we just didn't understand it.
I don't have an overview.
Maybe still my favorite episode for that moment.
Well, I do have an overview, but it won't make sense.
Sure.
Donnie Darko's little sister Sam is running away with her best friend Corey. Corey Corn. When their car breaks down in Utah, local bad boy Randy helps them out while they meet some eccentric locals to brush over a few scenes. Samantha struggles with Donnie's death and sleepwalks. She meets a homeless dude called Justin and tells him the world will end. Corey and Samantha fight before Samantha is killed by a car. Corey feels really bad and manages to turn back time to be killed in Samantha's place.
Yeah.
A geeky guy called Jeremy has a crush on Samantha and pressures her into a date where he becomes violent and pushes her over, killing her. Justin finds Samantha and turns back time so that he is killed by a falling meteorite instead. Corey and Samantha are alive again, and Samantha decides to go home while Corey stays with Randy. The end. It's the best I could do.
I think it's actually pretty good.
Thanks.
I think it's actually pretty good.
Let's just, I don't want to, completely get out of order, but I do want to say the end of it.
Yeah.
I did not think they were going to end it with a Cocteau Twins song. They just used like Heaven or Las Vegas for the entire thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that song, but the Cocteau Twins are so fucking silly. I love the fact that their lyrics are always like, Gala fornu, 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 boletino, balo, fornu. It's literally gibberish. I remember reading this interview with the Cocteau Twins and they were like, no, we don't care about words as lyrics. We just want the sound of the words to sound right for the song.
Yeah,
so
totally.
They'll just sing gibberish so that it sounds good with the music.
That's how I listen to music anyway.
Galifonu. You know when you Galifonu?
Oh, I thought it was like California, but California.
Nah, it's just Gala fornu.
California.
Fornu, do. Fornu. Cocteau Twins is one of Claude's favorite bands.
Well,
and I
but
like them.
It's so. This is what I mean. The ending is trying to directly mirror the ending in the original, where Donnie ends up dying because the time loop. But the part of what
Because the time loop.
Because the time loop. But part of what's interesting about Donnie Darko that works even if you don't get why the time loop happens is the specificity of that you see of two things in the epilogue. One is part of the lesson and takeaway almost feels like Donnie not being that means that all these people will live and be okay. You know?
Yeah.
Several people die in the third act who don't die in the scenario where Donnie isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
But also that what we're seeing is all of them waking up, clearly feeling like there's something they're forgetting.
Yeah.
So they have some sort of memory of, we see Patrick Swayze's character, who's like a real, self-help guy who gets revealed to have a kiddie porn dungeon, crying.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole, that's like Donnie burns down his house, but it ends up being a good thing because he had like a fucking dungeon of porn, which is bad for the Christian teacher because she worships this guy.
Oh.
It's like a little irony thing.
Yeah.
He's there like crying in remorse. That we see the teacher feeling awkward. We see Noah Wile's character because, he and Drew Barrymore, the two teachers, are sleeping together, but she gets like fired towards the end of the movie. He just like looks over, concerned for her. We see Frank, who, and then I'm going to come back to this, in the movie is just a kid who designed a sick-ass rabbit costume, having just drawn the outfit and like touching his eye because has this memory of being shot in the eye, They clearly feel something of what they just lost.
Yeah.
This does the same like side-tracking montage shots between them, but it's just of people just sort of being around.
Yeah, it's not like they're remembering anything or anything's changed. It's really just like Corey Korn and Randy will be in Utah together forever, and Jeremy Glasses isn't going to buy a meteorite.
Yeah, but
'Cause he wanted
instead the
to.
motel owner is going to get radiation sickness from it because he scratches his arm.
Sorry, Jeremy Frame, not Jeremy Glasses.
I thought you were doing a bit. I didn't realize you were
I was.
But also
Fully was.
the missing kid, we see him trapped in the fucking dungeon. Like, in the original, it was a kiddie porn thing, which is like still harm.
Yeah.
But in this one, the implication is that it was the priest that did it, not the Iraq War veteran with PTSD. Because you kind of get that one shot towards the end where it's like, hey, that's my bracelet. Then we see him sinister in the car and you're like, oh my God, it's him. He fucking did it. He took the kid.
Yeah, he's so creepy.
And we're like, so the kid's just going to die in the dungeon.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I didn't mention this in the overview, but there's a kid in the town that's missing called Billy Moorcroft.
Yeah.
And Billy, the implication is that the pastor did it.
Yeah. Features nothing into the plot.
No, there's a whole subplot about this pastor and he's really creepy. He tries to make a move on Sam. He like basically tries to like fucking rape her. Like he puts his hand on her thigh.
Yeah.
She's like 18. And then he's got this follower called Trudy, and that's her name, right? Trudy. Yeah. And she's really devout. She worships him. It is all these vague, terrible parallels to a much better film that came out 8 years prior.
Yeah.
With better themes, better characters.
That's what I mean. They're like doing the thing. I'm like, you clearly like the original.
But they did use Cocteau Twins.
Well, the original one has fucking needle drop after needle drop. If you're doing S. Darko, you have to put good music in it.
Yeah. Hey, there were a couple of good songs.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think the problem was with the soundtrack.
No. No, that's the last thing that was a problem in this film.
Genuinely.
The girl who played Sam was unfortunately so fucking cement-like, She could not emote. She could not express herself. She always just would narrow her eyes at someone and just be like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
No. I don't have to go there. I'm not going.
And that's the thing. Like, Donnie in the original is like sort of disassociative, but he also has both an anger and also like mischief.
Yeah.
Which is part of what makes him an enjoyable character to watch.
He's a character that clearly I think a lot of young men at the time could really relate to.
Totally.
They were like, he was a bit of a hero because he said what I think a lot of young men wanted to say.
But also he has this like kind of genuinely sweet romance with Jenna Malone's character. The equivalent of this, I guess, is Randy, who seems to like
Bad boy Randy,
who seems to kind of want both of them.
Yeah, he has this thing with Sam where they're talking about brothers and they've both got brothers that are missing or dead. And then you think he's got a romance with Corey, and then Corey and him are the ones that stay.
Also, in both the timeline where Sam dies and the timeline, also bold. I think it is genuinely bold to kill off your main character halfway through, only to bring her back 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes later. I was shocked by that because I was like, Corey's not the main character, so what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it was anyway. But
that whole bit was nuts.
In both Sam dies and Corey dies timeline, Randy receives so much of the burden of guilt and trauma. I'm like, I kind of feel bad for Randy. Like, no matter what, he's just kind of got this blame that isn't really his fault.
Yeah, he says to Corey, like, I'm really sorry. But actually, Corey's nice about it. She's like, I know, you didn't mean to do it. But then when Sam comes back and then Corey is killed in her place, Sam's really pissed off at Randy. She's like, bring my friend back.
It's like, why didn't she get out of the car?
I don't know, man.
The confusing thing, why they put like 3 loops in this one? Because in the original, it's Frank as a vision, because he kills Frank and then does the whole, right at the end, before the end of the loop. In this one, Sam is herself the Frank to Iraq Jack. Awful thing to call someone. That guy's a vet.
Yeah. Iraq Jack.
He's dealing with issues and everyone thinks he's the scum of the earth.
Yeah. So that veteran's got PTSD. Scorn him.
Scorn him. Get him out of here. Let's just name him. He's Iraq Jack. That's awful.
Let's let him be homeless.
Yeah.
Imagine you live in this small town, you have a motel and you won't let the homeless guy stay in it.
Yeah.
You know, if it's like fucking empty, you got nothing else, like no one else staying there.
Yeah.
But you're like, no, sit on the streets in our, population of 80 people in our Utah town.
There's so few of them for them to be so mean to Iraq Jack.
Can I just say as well?
Yeah, you can.
Gala fornu. Fornu.
Oh my god! I also had so much umbrage with. Now I'm just whinging. But that's the whole podcast.
Yeah.
I had so much umbrage with 2 of the things they did about trying to draw parallels with Frank. Because like I said, one is that they sort of split Frank in 2. Because Sam is Frank this time, but to Iraq Jack. But also the kid is Frank, but to Corey.
Yeah.
Sam doesn't have her Frank.
No.
Which is odd. But also the guy, Iraq Jack, makes the bunny mask because he's getting the visions. But and he also keeps saying Donnie likes to draw. The implication being he saw the vision of it in Donnie's draw. Donnie didn't draw the mask. Frank did. Frank was a real kid who made a real outfit. That's why he dresses like that, because it was
Chris
for
Fisher
Halloween.
Didn't watch Donnie Darko keenly enough, you know?
The bunny isn't some strange spirit. It's a real outfit someone made. Frank's an artist.
Well, so we need to talk about the fact that Jeremy Frame, you know, obviously he's getting infected by this meteorite or whatever. There's this bit where she's like, what's happened to your arm? And his arm is like got like a tennis ball sized open wound. And he's like, oh, it's nothing. And he's like, shirt is covered in blood.
Yeah, you see blood. Put a bandage on it. I get you're trying to downplay it, but put a bandage on it.
But that final scene, they go to sit in a park. She's in a dress and they're watching meteorites in the sky. Well, but they're actually tesseracts.
Well, I think he sees it and she doesn't.
Yeah, it's meant to be this universe opens up, there's a black hole. There was a lot of Doctor Who-esque opening theme song portals that you're spinning through at certain points. But after a certain point he's looking up and it's just what looks like tesseracts falling down on them again and again and again. Yeah. Which, God, if I was tripping balls watching this film, I would have had a great time. But unfortunately, I was sober.
Unfortunately.
That's the tagline of this whole fucking podcast. But I also just think there's that bit in the date where he starts getting violent towards her because he wants her to kiss him and she's like, you're just a fucking cock tease, which is really fucking creepy. But there's this bit where he basically pushes her and she falls onto the ground, clearly hits her head on a rock, which is what kills her.
On the bunny mask.
It goes through her head, right?
Yeah.
But
it goes through her skull.
But the audio for it is just a bit delayed. So it's like she falls and then it's like... It made me cackle. It made me cackle so hard.
Oh, the sound effects in this whole thing were insane.
This one person had one job, which was to match the sound up to the rough time it would have happened.
It wasn't even insane.
But they just couldn't get it to work.
God. Also, the wides in this thing. There's something about so many of the setups, and it was so obvious in the scenes with Jeremy Frame in particular. I don't know why. Where all of the scenes were covered with 2 singles and the most awkwardly stagey sort of mid sort of corner angle wide that you would see in like a student production. Like that's a director who's been told, oh yeah, the way you cover a scene is with a wide and two singles.
Yeah.
And they would constantly cut back to it
Yeah.
to show movement. My least favorite thing, like as an editor, any director I've worked with, some of whom listen to this podcast, can tell you, I whinge so hard about having to cut to an awkwardly staged wide just to show a character like getting up or walking over. And this is why it looks like shit.
There's this scene where she and Jeremy are in a hallway and then it cuts
Yes.
to a wide and suddenly the audio is really echoey and far away.
Yes.
And it feels amateur. It feels like a student film where it's just the voices reverberating in a hall.
It's because the boom is further away because they're using the source from the wide. It's a terrible
Why
choice.
didn't they fix it in post?
Because they're bad at their job.
Also, let's talk about some of the quotes in this, because at a certain point in this film, I was worried that it was like trying to be like satirical or trying to be like it was trying to be blatantly bad because of some of the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was that scene where Trudy, the religious woman, is like, Caneo Springs used to be a decent place. Then came the drugs and anus sex. And so I was like, this has to be a joke, right? It's like a joke film. There's also that bit where they're talking, like Pastor John is talking to Sam and Corey. And then I think Sam says, what do you think God's farts taste like? And then Sam's like, marshmallow peeps. Like, I was like, this has to be a joke.
Well, there was also the bit where they were meeting Jerry Glasses for the first time. And
Yeah.
And Corey is being so fucking weird. I know she's being facetious, but at one point she just asks, "Are you a gay?"
Yeah, are you a gay? And then when they get up and leave, Sam's just like, I don't think you're a gay.
I forgot that. Such a good 1-2 punch.
And then like Trudy, where she's like, I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Really? What's he like? He's big and strong, tan, lots of muscles. He's got lightning bolts shooting out of his eyes. Like, I was like, what the fuck?
I thought that was leading into a thing where, like, she is seeing visions of this universe as Frank. And no, she just has an insane vision of Christ in her mind.
Oh, my God. I just think that there were just bits in this film where I was like, is it trying to be bad? But I think it was just genuinely really bizarre.
I think it just didn't understand what was good about the original.
No. I mean, do you want to hear some trivia?
I would love to.
IMDb trivia.
Okay, Michelle.
I would love to. I think what this podcast has been missing is vocal fry.
California.
California.
California. California.
Jason Schwartzman. They should have brought him back for this one.
So trivia. Richard Kelly, the original director of Donnie Darko, has not seen this film and vows not to, as it had nothing to do with him, and it tainted and meddled with his original vision for the Darko mythology. He went on to say in an interview, I hate it when people ask me about that sequel because I had nothing to do with it. And I hate when people try and blame me or hold me responsible for it because I had no involvement. I don't control the underlying rights to the Donnie Darko franchise. I had to relinquish them when I was 24 years old. I hate when people ask me about that because I've never seen it and I never will. So don't ask me about the sequel. Those people are making lots of money. They're certainly making lots of money off of me. So he seems really...
I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I would be embittered too if I made it, because reading about it, he wrote it in 28 days, but he was like so passionate about it for so long. It came together after so much work and effort of him like fucking scraping, and like for later someone else to just go like, yeah. I'm going to take this. I'm going to make a lot. I'm going to build on it.
In the worst way possible.
In the worst way. It's going to be terrible. It's not going to understand it at all. And I'm going to make a shit ton of money off of it. And you, a struggling artist, would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Apparently Maggie Gyllenhaal was offered the opportunity to make a cameo with her character Elizabeth Darko. Maggie and her brother Jake stated that they were not interested in appearing in this film and refused all offers.
Yeah, good. Wise.
This film was made on a 25-day schedule.
Wow.
So they did pump it out.
They really did.
Not that it was anything that special to pump out in
I'm
25
almost
days.
surprised it took that long.
Apparently, during filming, Ed Westwick had one of his eardrums accidentally blown out when an explosion went off too closely to him.
Oh my God.
He also threw his back out while trying to pick up Davy Chase.
Oh.
Which is insane because she seems like the tiniest little girl.
Yeah.
Even I could pick her up.
But maybe she's dense. She's
Dense.
She's
She's
scrappy.
like my cat casserole. She's scrappy.
She's scrappy. She's small and wafy, but she's heavy.
There's this bit in Hamilton. There's this line that almost makes me cringe. Like, I like Hamilton, but there's this bit where he's like, I'm young, scrappy, and hungry. And me and Claude always quote it. Because something for my country, I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not going to waste my shot. It's silly.
Hamilton only works if you accept that it is cringe.
It is cringe.
You know?
It is silly. I still enjoy it, but that song of like, I'm not gonna waste my shot. I'm not gonna throw my shot. I'm not gonna whatever. I don't like that song.
It's just musical theater's cringe. That's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
That's honestly what makes it enjoyable. You are free when you watch it because you know you have to sink into the cringe. It's
just
great.
Like my country, I'm young, scrappy, and hungry.
Like even when I watch Chicago, a movie that is like probably one of the most acceptably like cool and well made, like but it's also still like silly.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's great.
And then there's bits of Hamilton where I'm like, this is fucking sick.
Yeah.
Like the Yorktown song is so good in Hamilton. I've only had my Hamilton awakening last year because I went to go see it. And it is fun. It is really fun.
Neither of us are theatre kids, but I feel like both of us are theatre adjacent.
I can be brought around to theatre, you know? Like get a glass of wine on me and a good friend and take me to a theatre production. I'll have a great time.
I feel like both of us have always had a lot of friends who are theatre kids.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. Because we're all queer.
Yeah.
And annoying.
Oh, is he, Flup's wrist annoying?
Yeah. God, that Yorktown song is so sick. There's this bit where they're all like basically like dancing around and rolling with these like muskets and firing them in their little like, blue coats, not red coats. And it's very patriotic.
That's cool.
God, I wish I was an American.
No, you don't.
Only when I watch Hamilton.
Not
though.
right now.
This film takes place in June 1995. That's when I was born.
Oh, wow, it was, wasn't it? That's cool.
Me.
God, if there was a baby in it would be you. I do love that it was 4th of July was the Halloween of this movie. That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Here's my last piece of trivia for you. And it's I think you'll like it. Italian censorship visa 102824 delivered on 6th of August 2009.
Yes.
Woohoo! Italian censorship visas.
Yes. And thank you again to honored friend of the podcast Vira for figuring out what the fuck that meant in the first place.
Thank you so much. We really could not be fucked finding that information. Do you want to hear some reviews?
Yes, please.
Reviews! Well, Rotten Tomatoes gave this film a 13% approval rating.
That's pretty low.
Yep. The film was largely panned by critics, often citing its muddled storyline, one-sided characters, and superficial dialogue. The AV Club gave the film an F, noting that the sequel took a few simple surface elements from Donnie Darko and failed spectacularly in trying to create a franchise.
Yeah.
The Washington Post gave a somewhat better review, calling it average but stating that the Darko faithful are better off skipping the movie entirely and devoting their attention to the making of featurette and the commentary track, and that they have little faith that the moviegoers who once fell in love with Kelly's unique take on teen alienation will see S. Darko as anything more than a very minor pop cultural footnote.
Yeah. It's apt as fuck.
And I've only got 2 IMDb reviews for you because none of them are very interesting.
Yeah.
Here's a 9 out of 10 review called Really, Really Good and Worth Watching, left by Pink Tuesday -733-49161-29.
How many Pink Tuesdays were there? What the fuck?
Oh, it's such a popular handle, clearly. I thought this film was amazing. The camera work was astounding, as were the landscape shots. The story was beautifully understated, although a little confusing. It was intriguing, just creepy. The general feel of the film, with the soundtrack and the camera work, and the storyline all working together, was quite touching. I think it's such a shame. No one seems to review this film. It is definitely in my top 10 favorite movies. I've never actually seen Donnie Darko. Maybe people would enjoy this more if they don't see Donnie Darko and saw it on its own. Overall, sweet, creepy, and beautiful. Almost perfect. 9 out of 10. I've never actually seen Donnie Darko.
That's such a great ringer to sling in the middle of it.
And here's a 10 out of 10 review left by Justin Gaddy 46 called Outside's Perspective ...
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, but just when you use ellipses, just know how ominous it makes everything sound.
So spooky.
I know people are like, What? Yeah, I'm crazy. That's probably why this movie made sense to me.
Oh my God.
Quite the twist. I tell you. Or twists, I should say. Watch it without expectations and comparisons. But don't forget D. Darko. Try not to be so critical about the different director or arguably the poor acting. A little more optimism and open-mindedness. Let your imagination go with the pot. It's like POTT.
What?
All capitals.
I don't know what that means.
Check out the D. Darlo webpage and get it all laid out. This movie also answers some questions about the first, especially about Mrs. Death.
Oh my God.
I would love to lay out my points, but I don't want to post this one as a spoiler. Maybe the next one. About to watch it again. Peace. 10 out of 10. Well, that was Justin Gaddy's review, Michelle. What's your review?
Well, like I said, one of my biggest problems with it is how poorly made it is. I do genuinely want to give it credit because I do think it was made like it would be so easy for it to be a very cynical cash in, for it to be made with no love for the original, to make it just like really cheap. And like at some points it is cheap. There's a lot of like jump scary bits.
Yeah.
But you know, I think there's a lot of ways that it could have been worse. And instead it made the weirder choice of trying to be weird and interesting. It's just not good at doing that.
Yeah.
And like I said, it part of that is also just the direction. None of the shot, like the first one is really quite inspired direction, and this kind of has nothing that really engages me cinematically. Particularly, there's not really any images that stand out as striking in any way.
And there were bits of it where I just didn't feel like it did look like a movie.
No,
I have to say,
it
I know
didn't.
that we have 2 as a bar of like, it looked like a movie, but there were moments where I was like, this doesn't look like a movie.
Yeah, I think it almost is like a movie, but it's not quite. So I'm gonna give it 1.9.
Good rating. Good rating. Look, this film gets like an extra couple of points for me for Gala fornu, but
Yeah.
because I mean, Cocteau Twins is an ethereal way to end any film. But then there was like the other 85 minutes of it. So I think you're probably on the money. I'll say 8.9, 1 point. Wow. Whoa. 1.9 as well.
Yeah, hell yeah. We're in sync.
Woohoo! We're in sync.
We're in sync.
I've never listened to In Sync.
I was doing very specifically the bit in The Simpsons they do with In Sync.
Okay.
Where they do that bit as they dance in, and then Milhouse goes, "It's In Sync."
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really good. Hey, guys. Did you like that? Because we're on social media.
You always deliver it like I've just smacked you in the face.
Yeah, we're on social media. We're on X at RateDescendPod. We're on TikTok at Rating Descending, or you can email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. Oh, we love getting your emails.
We love you could be just like honored friend of the podcast, Olivia Bernard, and email us. But you could also find us on our own social media. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Michelle.St. You can find me on Letterboxd at M.St. You can also now find Shippers from the same producer of No Ordinary Love, Joe Beveridge, on YouTube at Shippers Series, or on Instagram at Shippers Series. Where Abby, you're taking a phone call?
We have the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. You can also find the hackable music player Tangara, made by a few friends of mine at Cool Tech Zone at crowdsupply.com/cool-tech-zone/Tangara to back it and stuff, or purchase it and all of that. You can also find No Ordinary Love on YouTube at No Ordinary Love Series. You can find Unerased on Instagram at -18youth, or TikTok at unerased.tv.
It just gets bigger and bigger.
Well, it's because I keep not letting go of wanting to pump Unerased and No Ordinary Love.
Fair.
Really, I could just cut it off at Shippers and Tangara, but I want people to watch all the stuff.
Fair.
People I care about made those things, and I want people to watch it.
We're also on YouTube now. If you look up Rating Descending, you'll find us on YouTube.
Yeah, but you know, if you don't care about doing all of that, if you've done all of that, you know what else would help? You could leave us a review wherever you get your podcast, but you know, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, because you know what? It really makes a difference.
Well, Michelle, That was S. Darko. What are we watching next week?
Next week we're watching Stan Helsing.
Woohoo!
Like Van Helsing?
Yeah.
But his name's Stan.
We'll find out why.
Pretty funny.
So good.
Pretty funny.
I guess we'll be there. Because we have to.
We have to.
Woohoo!
Oh my God. Ward's coming in with a whip.